I cherish the warmth that once filled my home, especially the sound of laughter echoing through the hall as I chased my joyful son, David, around the backyard. In those days, he rode his bike with exuberance, his bright smile shining against the endless blue sky. I remember the pride swelling in my chest when he wobbled but managed to stay upright after his first ride, shouting, "Look, Mom, I can ride." Those moments were the foundation of our lives, where the air wrapped us in a protective embrace and the sweetness of hot cocoa lingered in our kitchen long after the mugs were empty. Through each stage of his life, I cheered him on fiercely. I crafted birthdays that felt like festivals, organized camping trips scented with pine and wood smoke, and indulged his dreams during late-night talks. My heart burst with love as I wove our family tapestry, filled with cherished traditions and memories. Every flower arrangement in the house, every framed family photo was a testament to the care I poured into creating a warm and welcoming home. Then Claire entered our lives, a whirlwind of charm and charisma that swept David off his feet. I wanted to embrace this new chapter, believing she would honor our family's love. But her arrival marked a shift in dynamics that felt unsettling. I recalled one particular gathering where I meticulously set the dining room table, adorned with candles and my signature lasagna. Instead of delight, Claire offered a tight smile and remarked, "I doubt anyone else would enjoy such a traditional recipe. Times have changed." I felt the heat rush to my cheeks as the laughter fluttered around us. Her words struck deep, and I kept my silence, blindsided by the casual contempt. Over time, Claire's critiques grew sharper, layer by layer. Chintzy was how she described my floral centerpiece. She dismissed my shelves as too cluttered. Each jab felt like a removal of cobwebs that held my life together, leaving me exposed. I wanted to confront her, to reclaim my dignity, but with every scathing remark, the bewildering silence from David cut deeper. I started to question myself. Was I out of touch? Did Claire's disdain reveal the truth I was too proud to face? The insecurities that I thought had long been buried began to resurface like unwelcome guests, gnawing at my sense of worth. No, I can't let her win, I tell myself, clinging to memories of joy and love. The unconditional bond with my son glimmers like a fragile thread in the fabric of my heart. I think of our shared moments, those sunlit afternoons filled with laughter and dreams where nothing could shatter the love between us. Yet as Claire's grip tightens, I am left feeling increasingly isolated, trapped in a house that once welcomed warmth but now feels uninviting. I realize I must find a way to stand up for myself, to reclaim not just my space in this family, but my sense of self amidst the chaos of Claire's contempt. It is time to readjust the threads of this unraveling tapestry and take back my rightful place. As the warm glow of family life shifted, Claire became a permanent fixture in our home. Her initial charm was magnetic, capturing not only David's heart, but also my hopes for a seamless future. Those first months disguised her true nature behind a veneer of affection and laughter. But gradually the facade began to crack, revealing the sharp edges underneath. I remember hosting a family dinner shortly after their engagement. I wanted to impress Claire, hoping to foster a connection. The house was filled with the tantalizing scent of my renowned roast chicken, slow-roasted potatoes, and fresh herbs lining the table, their fragrance enveloping the space like a comforting embrace. When Claire arrived, I greeted her with a bright smile, inviting her in. "Wow, Margaret, this is quite the spread," she complimented, but her eyes seemed to flicker with something else, as if she were learning and judging all at once. Once settled, we exchanged small talk. yet I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling gnawing at my insides. Over the dinner table, as the conversation flowed like the wine, Claire casually slipped in a comment about my cooking. It's so nostalgic, but some of us prefer a bit more spice in life, don't we, David? At that moment, I could practically feel the warm crust of my pride crumble. David chuckled, glancing away, leaving Claire to bask in the laughter around her. It was a subtle jab, yet it cut deeper than she intended. While I brushed it off at the time, thinking perhaps I was just being overly sensitive, those layers of her disdain piled up, each scraping against my heart. Over the next few gatherings, her playful barbs became more pronounced. She would poke fun at my vintage decor, calling it grandma chic, with a playful smirk that masked her true intent. Friends would nod, half-heartedly laughing along in confusion. And still, David remained silent, an unyielding spectator in this growing drama. More frequently, I caught glimpses of Claire's manipulation. On one occasion, I overheard her discussing my holiday decorations with some of the neighbors. "That wreath just doesn't scream modern," she quipped, her laughter infectious while the others giggled along. The piquant tang of humiliation flooded my cheeks. I felt invisible, as if my years of creativity and love were suddenly deemed obsolete. The children, Lucy and Max, would often come to me, their tiny hands grasping at my apron strings, eager to help me bake. I reveled in their laughter, recalling my own joy when David was small. Those were the innocent moments that brightened my world. But I sensed Claire's displeasure, her eyes narrowing whenever we shared joyful interactions. It simmered beneath the surface, a volcanic rage anchored in jealousy. I remember one afternoon, sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, illuminating our playful chaos as flour dusted the countertops. "Grandma, can we add chocolate chips?" squealed Lucy, her youthful enthusiasm infectious. My heart swelled with pride. We began preparing cookies as giggles mingled with the smell of melting chocolate. Just as we were about to pour the batter into the tray, Claire walked in, her smile unsettlingly wide. "Margaret, do the kids really need so many sweets? It seems a bit indulgent, don't you think?" Her comment was a calculated dismissal of our joy, as if she sought to undermine our bond, to pry Lucy and Max away from me and into her world of rigidity. The once familiar warmth of family dinners began to feel distant, rivaled by the frosty atmosphere that Claire so easily constructed. I often found myself watching her as she maneuvered through our home, surveying every detail, her calculated attitudes emerging like a predator, honing in on its prey. Observing David's passive compliance stung as deeply as Claire's jibes. He seemed oblivious to the erosion of our relationship, too wrapped up in his own happiness to see the fissures deepening in our family. I would throw my hands up in frustration, feel my throat tighten, astonished at his ignorance. Didn't he see how our family was transforming before his eyes? Didn't he recognize the scars of favoritism and manipulation? Days turned into weeks, and still, I remained on the outskirts, battling my thoughts while pondering how to navigate this new landscape. Claire's growing influence began to tower over me, casting shadows over my efforts to keep my place in my own family. But I couldn't let her continue this way. Each dismissal, each slight, fueled a slow simmering fire inside me, a desire to reclaim my space in this family. I needed to find ways to assert myself quietly, yet resolutely, to make David see the impact of her words. Claire might be formidable, but I had strength and love forged from years of dedication. I take a deep breath, closing my eyes, focusing on the flickers of joy that still remain. I won't be silenced nor shadowed in my own life. I promise myself that I will adapt for the sake of my grandchildren and my son. It's time to gather the threads of my dignity and weave them into a tapestry bold enough to stand against Claire's walls of disdain. The quiet moments in my kitchen became my refuge as I ruminated on the growing tensions within my family. The laughter that used to echo around our dining room felt muffled now, overshadowed by Claire's sharp, relentless critique. I recognized that if I didn't take action soon, I risked losing my place in my own family, a thought that sent chills down my spine. It was time to devise a plan, a strategy to take back my role as a loving mother and grandmother. I had to uphold my dignity against the storm that Claire had unleashed. As I peered around the cluttered kitchen, now filled with memories of better days, the warmth of the sun filtering in made me feel resolute. I could draw strength from my nurturing history. It was time to put it into action. First, I resolved to confront Claire, but I knew it would require finesse. I didn't want to ignite a full-blown confrontation that would push David away. Instead, I envisioned measured responses, small strategic counterpoints to her remarks, aimed at reclaiming my narrative. I would remind her that while she might be my son's wife, I would always be his mother. Second, I planned to reconnect with David, to invite him into the warmth of our family tradition, reigniting the joyful memories that had once bound us together. I began drafting ideas for simple family activities, a weekend picnic by the lake, an art evening creating masterpieces, or even cozy game nights. I knew that if he could feel the joy of those moments again, he would see the value of our bond amidst Claire's discontent. Lastly, I decided to observe Claire with a more discerning eye. I would document her actions and reactions, seeking to understand the motivations behind her words. If I could uncover her insecurities, I could wield that knowledge to turn the tide in our interactions. Each dismissive comment she made would serve as an opportunity for me to affirm my position, a subtle dance of strength hidden beneath my kindness. With my plan outlined, I felt a surge of confidence. That following Saturday, I summoned my family for an impromptu dinner. I envisioned this gathering as the cornerstone of my strategy. Scents of roasting vegetables mingled with herbs, creating a bouquet of comfort as Lucy and Max helped bake the cookies I promised them. When David arrived, his infectious energy filled the room, but Claire lingered close behind, her frigid demeanor threatening to pierce our happiness. I welcomed them with genuine warmth, determined to wrap this evening in unity. I hoped to create an inviting space that could overpower Claire's criticisms, if only for a few precious hours. As we sat down to eat, the atmosphere shifted, laughter mingling with a hint of tension. I wove playful narratives about David's childhood into our conversation, each story punctuated with affection. "Remember when you built that massive fort in the living room?" I laughed, recalling the chaos he created, and David grinned. Claire shot a pointed look at me, her smile taut. "Living in the past, are we?" she quipped, the undercurrents palpable. My heart raced. This was the test I had been preparing for. Instead of retreating, I leaned in, my voice steady despite the flutter in my stomach. "It's part of our story, Claire. Those moments remind us of who we are. Our past gives us strength." The laughter at the table flickered for a brief moment, David's brows furrowing slightly at Claire's dismissal. I seized the opportunity, turning the conversation back toward joyful tales, interlacing them with light-hearted banter. For each time she challenged me, I parried back with warmth and affection, veiling my strength beneath a surface of grace. As the evening unfolded, confidence blossomed within me. I felt the cracks in Claire's facade deepen, each dismissive jab met with my steadfast refusal to yield. During dessert, as we savored the cookies Lucy had delightedly decorated, A moment of connection ignited between David and me. He caught my eye, and for the first time in a long while, I glimpsed a flicker of understanding in his gaze. However, Claire's palpable discomfort rumbled beneath the surface, a storm brewing in silence. I knew this battle was far from over, but I felt emboldened. I might be cloaked in a gentle demeanor, but I was fiercely protective of my place in this family, and I would not be subdued by her tactics. By the end of the night, I felt a newfound resilience bloom within me. In retrospect, I could see that reclaiming my dignity was an ongoing journey, one that demanded vigilance and persistence. By crafting a plan, I had taken the first significant steps toward healing. I would hold tightly to the mantra, "They can mute me at the table, never in my heart." It became my shield against the chaos, a reminder that, while Claire might cast shadows, my spirit would shine brighter, drawing my family closer together. Reinforced by this victory, I vowed to carry it with me, ready to face the challenges ahead. With each gathering, I would continue to assert my place, nurturing not just my own dignity, but all the love I still had the power to offer. After all, in this intricate game of family dynamics, sometimes the most profound impact comes from a spirit fueled by grace and determination. With each interaction, I began to view Claire through the lens of a keen observer. I tucked away my feelings of dismay and channeled them into understanding her motivations, her connections, her behaviors. Rather than merely enduring the tension, I sought to become a detective in my own home, piecing together the subtle threads of manipulation that colored our family dynamics. Observing Claire closely became my new pastime. The kitchen was my command center, and I used the moments she was present to gauge her strategies. I found myself noting her behavior changes during gatherings. When David praised me for a recipe, Claire would instinctively reply with a sharp jest, squeezing my heart, with each insult cloaked as jest. Conversely, when she spoke, her tone was often airy and light, though her words occasionally hung on the edge of disdain. Each day, I learned to read her body language, the tension in her shoulders or the slight raising of her brows during our meals. Each glance she exchanged with David dripped with subtext. I could feel the weight of unspoken alliances and judgments. As I became accustomed to recognizing these patterns, I turned instead to documenting how David fell into the ease of Claire's sway. Time after time, her dismissive comments drew laughter or eyes rolled while he barely registered the damage they did to me. His smile widened at her jokes, lifting her up while inadvertently pushing me further away. Yet, I felt the urgency to draw him back into our shared world. One clinching moment arose when I overheard her chat with a mutual neighbor, Marie. It was a breezy afternoon, birds chirping softly while the sunlight filtered through the kitchen window. I was still whipping up the last batch of my famous chicken casserole while eavesdropping, heart pounding. "Margaret can't keep up with the new trends in home decor," Claire chirped, unknowingly letting slip a crucial insight. "Have you seen her outdated living room? It's practically a museum." "It's sweet she tries, but some of us have moved on." Marie laughed lightly, her unfiltered humor cutting into my heart. My hands shook as I mixed the casserole. Anger threatened to spill over. I wanted to storm out and divert their thoughts, but thin walls kept me confined to the uncomfortable reality of Claire's scrutiny. As I braced myself against the counter, I realized this was more than chance gossip. It reflected her jealousy. Her critiques emerged from a sense of inadequacy, a fear of not measuring up to the mother standard I upheld. This new perspective anchored me. I didn't need to remain in the shadows. I needed to use these insights as fuel. I would tactically dismantle the fabric Claire weaved around David, fortifying my own presence within our family. With this understanding, I plotted the next steps. First, I started small, deepening my rapport with David around our shared memories while exposing him gently to Claire's subtext. I would subtly remind him of moments that anchored our bond: summer outings, rain soaked movie nights, little fragments of pure joy that had always existed outside Claire's grasp of control. "Remember the camping trip where you caught that huge fish?" I casually tossed at him one evening, watching as the reminiscing flickered across his features. "Yeah, and you cooked it up for dinner like a master." His laughter was bright, yet there lingered a cloud of confusion. I recognized the moment. He was comfortably caught between his past and the present as he grappled with the dichotomy of family life. But this investigative phase also forced me to confront my own vulnerabilities, the stark realization that my son was hesitant to confront Claire. Why? What held him back from defending our bond? I watched for signs of this hesitation, noting the slight way he would slope his shoulders in her presence as if surrendering any claim to allegiance. Armed with awareness, I set the stage for the next gathering, determined to use this knowledge to rebuild my connection. The following weekend, I invited the family for a barbecue, hoping the outdoors would lighten the atmosphere. The air was fragrant with the smell of grilling burgers and freshly made potato salad, and I had set the patio beautifully. Bright yellow flowers flanking the table filled with good food and laughter. I made it a point to include Lucy and Max in the preparations, inviting them to help me season the meat and whip up a fresh batch of lemonade. As everyone arrived, I directed my attention toward Claire, soaking in her nuances. I noticed the moment her smile faded and her critical eyes surveyed my floral arrangements. "Do you really think yellow is a summer color, Margaret?" She scoffed while placing her designer handbag down in a way that displayed her perceived sophistication. "Of course. It matches the sunshine, right?" I countered, steeling myself against the bite of her undertones. "I thought it would brighten up the table for us." I watched as the tension hung thick but kept my voice warm. Capturing the moment, I then switched the subject back to David and his legacy of cooking, drawing him into the warmth of family tradition. "David, remember the way you'd always steal the grill spatula from me during our barbecues? I think you still owe me a rematch," I said lightly, nudging him out of his shell. I could see Claire bristle. The subtle shift in her body language came like ripples in water as my son reacted to my affection. "Mom, you know I'm the master griller here," he chuckled, elbowing my side as he strode toward the grill. It was a small win. David was momentarily sidestepping Claire's venom, retreating into the memories we had forged together. As the evening unfolded, each shared laugh snipped at the threads binding Claire's manipulation around David, drawing him closer to the bonds we held. The realization that Claire might sense her hold loosening, her eyes darted around, seeking assurance from David. I caught her gaze, unyielding, a silent promise tightening my resolve. Each reciprocal exchange of warmth nudged us back toward connection as I carefully wove in anecdotes and laughter, reinforcing our shared history while challenging Claire's hold. I knew it was only the beginnings of an intricate dance, one where my resilience would gradually chip away at her control. Yet, I carried my revelations close, from Claire's jealousy to the quiet hesitations I discerned in David. I wouldn't rush. This was a game that unfolded in layers, letting the relentless pursuit of our family's love keep me fortified, felt both empowering and exhilarating. I remained determined that, armed with this knowledge, I would reclaim my dignity and rebuild my family, one moment at a time. One might say that resilience is forged in fire, and for me those flames were fed by Claire's persistent scrutiny, a relentless reminder that I had to remain vigilant. In the weeks that followed the barbecue, Our family dynamics began to shift subtly but distinctly. I had sensed a growing tension, a palpable edge that Claire tried to disguise under a veneer of pleasantness. Each interaction became a careful balancing act, and my heart raced with the knowledge that one misstep could plunge us back into her oppressive atmosphere. The forthcoming holiday season presented a prime opportunity to solidify my gains. As Thanksgiving approached, I needed to ensure that my efforts wouldn't dissolve into a mere fleeting victory. I felt an electric thrill at the thought of gathering everyone together, a functional family dinner that transcended Claire's toxicity. Planning became my new focus. The menu evolved into a feast brimming with nostalgia: roasted turkey, cranberry sauce, mashed potatoes, and homemade pumpkin pie. I envisioned the family table elegantly adorned, bursting with warmth and cheer. Just days before the holiday, I reached out to David, proposing we engage the children in crafting decorations, an act meant to deepen our connections while fostering moments of joy. We could make a banner that says, "Thankful," I suggested, hoping to ignite enthusiasm. He readily agreed, and I gathered all the art supplies the following weekend. I was buoyed by the idea that these simple projects could draw David and the kids into our collective memory, stitching our familial tapestry together even further. Claire entered the scene like a storm cloud, her bright smile hiding a turbulent presence. I fretted at the thought of her seizing the opportunity to dampen our holiday spirit. When I showed her the planned decorations, I was wary of her reaction. "All this?" she declared with a skeptical glance. "You really think the kids will enjoy this craft? They're a bit advanced for finger painting, aren't they?" The edge of her tone veered dangerously close to belittlement, but I expertly steered my affections toward Lucy and Max. "Actually, it'll help them socialize and learn teamwork," I replied, undeterred. I smiled at the children, watching them beam with excitement, held closely by the light that Claire couldn't extinguish. Focus shifted back to crafting as David joined us, humor returning to our workspace, narrating tales from childhood where art was pure joy, and I could see the love that bloomed between us. On Thanksgiving Day, my heart fluttered in a medley of anticipation and anxiety. I lined up the food on the table as David and the kids hung our newly crafted decorations, a creative reflection of our shared joy. As Lucy darted from room to room, I absorbed her laughter, a sound I craved more than anything else. Max, busy flipping channels on the TV, filled the space with good-natured exuberance, a direct line of affection tethered to my heart. The doorbell rang, and I steadied myself, taking a breath before presenting an inviting smile. The moment Claire walked in, the atmosphere darkened momentarily, a cloud of judgment trailing closely behind her. Yet, I resolved within myself to allow the joy of the day to light my heart. "Happy Thanksgiving, everyone!" I beamed at the gathering, a hopeful shield against Claire's discontent. My mantra reverberated in my mind. "They can mute me at the table, never in my heart." I felt it strengthen my resolve. As I carefully began to funnel energy into the celebrations, I returned to our gratitude board, the centerpiece of our table. Each family member was invited to express what they were thankful for. Starting with Lucy, we had written loving words, and I quietly hoped these would inspire positive reactions from David and the children. When their turn arrived, the smiles and laughter echoed through the dining room. Claire took a sip of her wine, an eyebrow raised when David confidently shared, "I'm thankful for Mom's cooking and all the fun times we had doing festive crafts together." I felt a tinge of warmth suffuse my chest, but Claire's gaze narrowed, her jealousy morphing into icy disdain. "Is that really what you're thankful for?" she interrupted sharply, her tone a platter of condescension served with a hint of superiority. "I would think you might appreciate more sophisticated matters." It was her attempt to overshadow the event with negativity, yet my spirits soared as David glanced between her and me, hesitating as if desperate for clarity. It was a turning point, a moment I had subconsciously prayed for. He could either succumb to her sneers or let my presence stabilize the ship, holding tenderly to the warmth we had all crafted together. Thus, I took a deep breath, willing myself to maintain composure. "Of course, Claire," I said, my voice calm yet powerful. "But we all find joy in different things. Family is at the core of what Thanksgiving means, don't you think?" The acknowledgement rippled through the gathered family, lending strength to my words. The weight of tradition hung like mist, echoing comfort among us. David took that moment to reinforce the sentiment, saying, "Yeah, Mom sacrifices a lot for us, and these moments matter, Claire." His response contained neither the bite nor the defensiveness I often feared. Instead, it dripped with affection, a testament to the fabric of our interconnectedness infused with love. With the gaze of the room upon her, Claire stood there, caught, her defiance faltering like a firework losing its spark. I could see the simmer within her, yet my heart fluttered like wings escaping a cage. I seized that subtle shift, pressing onward with warmth, gently guiding the conversations back to reflection and gratitude. Discussions flowed gracefully among us, brimming with the joy of sharing tales of the past and hopes for the future. Through it all, Claire tried to interject complaints, but they landed soft and thin against our collective resolve. The Thanksgiving dinner united us, tightening the threads forged through shared laughter and warmth. By the evening's end, as I watched the children enthusiastically clear the table while David loaded the dishwasher, I glimpsed a different version of my son, a man who had begun to recognize the dynamics of our family. The victory felt triumphant, emboldened by the possibility that perhaps, within this intricate dance of family life, I could implement lasting change. Redemption sang, illuminating a path that traced back to love and respect. I knew Claire would remain a formidable presence, but the bonds that tethered my family felt newly revitalized. "They can mute me at the table, never in my heart," I echoed to myself, ready to face whatever challenges the future may hold. I stepped outside onto the porch, breathing in the cool night air, the glimmer of stars shimmering above me. Each twinkling light embodied my reflections on gratitude and growth as I released the burdens of fear and inadequacy. It was time to reclaim my space, not just as a mother, but as a strong woman who could navigate life's complexities with grace and dignity. The warmth infused in my heart marked the turning point of growth, the beginning of reclaiming my legacy, one cherished moment at a time. As weeks unfurled after Thanksgiving, I began to see tangible shifts in my family dynamics. The balm of warmth from that gathering empowered me to further execute my strategies. I wanted to continue fostering the connections I had begun to mend, weaving love more tightly into the fabric of our interactions. I decided to host another family gathering, this time framed as a cozy family evening. I adorned the table in festive reds and greens, laying out family photos that showcased our shared history. There was a certain magic in looking back at those moments captured in time, David's first birthday cake, summer trips to the coast, reminders that we were bound by love, resilient despite the struggles. The evening began with David and the kids arriving, their laughter filling the house like a gentle tide. I embraced each moment, knowing that this was my opportunity to reinforce the family unit. "It's wonderful to have you here," I said, intentionally handing them tasks in the kitchen, hoping to anchor them in this shared experience. When Claire arrived, the atmosphere shifted slightly, tension creeping back in like a shadow. I welcomed her warmly, recalling that I needed to hold my ground. "I hope you're ready for a fun evening," I remarked, my smile genuine as I worked to keep Claire's disparaging comments at bay. If she had expected the night to unfold in the usual way, riddled with criticism and discontent, she miscalculated. Each time she tried to undermine the evening, I deftly switched topics back to light-hearted family anecdotes, painting vivid pictures of joyous times that showed how tightly knit we truly were. Dinner was a medley of laughter, but as I carefully crafted stories that invoked nostalgia, Claire's sharp remarks began to feel more distant. "Remember when David tried making pasta and ended up with a gooey mess?" I teased, drawing giggles from the children. When Claire scoffed, I gently countered, "But it was a family moment we all treasure, one that brought us genuinely together." The laughter seemed to be a barrier against her cynicism. I felt a small victory each time I managed to shift the atmosphere away from negativity, guiding my family back into a circle of warmth. Later, as we gathered in the living room, I proposed a fun game night. "How about charades?" I suggested, knowing these moments could allow Claire to break from her rigid shell. Despite her initial hesitation, she agreed, brushing her doubts aside as if they were a pesky fly. We played, and gradually I could see the outlines of a different Claire, the laughter escaping from her with each turn, the rigid walls slowly coming down. Yet I understood this battle was far from won. Months passed, and I felt the rippling effects of my efforts. The plans I had laid out were beginning to take root, but I knew I could heighten the stakes. I organized a larger family gathering, inviting relatives who could affirm our bonds while illuminating our shared love. The day of the dinner was a flurry of activity as I arranged the house with laughter and warmth threaded into every corner. The table was a mosaic of memories, each dish carrying its own story. As David and Lucy joined me to set the table, their exuberance reminded me why I fought so hard to reclaim our connection. When Claire arrived, I sensed her tension from a distance, but I stood firm. She assessed the throng of familiar faces, a fierce scowl marring her features, yet the gathering thrummed with energy and love, and I felt empowered to encourage the positive narrative. With family members sharing their own stories of joy and gratitude, I carefully navigated through the evening, ever watchful of Claire's reactions. Each time she attempted to chip at our moment with a snide remark, our relatives swiftly countered, reinforcing what we had built together. "Thank you all for making this dinner a celebration," I declared softly, heart buoyed as the warmth enveloped us. I realized my strength and resilience fueled the bonds I desired to protect. They were thriving under the light of our unwavering connections. In quiet moments of reflection amid laughter, Claire appeared increasingly isolated, her attempts to reclaim her position fading against the chorus of shared joy. While I could feel her simmering frustration, I continued to stand my ground, understanding that this was not just about victory over Claire. It was about nurturing our family spirit. As the evening drew to a close, relatives departed with smiles, their affirmations echoing in my heart. I stood alongside David and the children, basking in the soft afterglow of our gathering, my resolve reinforced, creating a space where love triumphed over doubt. "That was amazing," David said, his pride evident as he gathered the last of the dishes. I caught his eye, and for a moment he looked at me with understanding, a reflection of our shared journey. Stepping outside, I felt the cool air brush against my skin, stars twinkling overhead as I embraced the expansive possibilities ahead. "They can mute me at the table, never in my heart," I whispered softly, an echo of empowerment soaring within me. The victories felt more than just personal. They were woven threads of promise that shaped the legacy I wished to nurture. Each moment we shared reaffirmed that I was not just surviving, but thriving, reclaiming my place in our family's embrace. I was determined to keep elevating our love, using each gathering as a step forward in the ongoing journey of healing and connection. In the days that followed our family dinner, I felt a restless energy pulsing beneath the surface. Claire's mounting resentment was impossible to ignore. It wrapped around our interactions like a thick fog. I could sense that we stood on the brink of confrontation, the kind of moment that could either solidify our bonds or shatter them. One evening, as I prepped for dinner, my phone buzzed with a message from David. "Mom, can we talk? It's about Claire." My heart sank, dread pooling in my stomach. I knew this conversation would be pivotal. "Of course, come over," I replied, tinged with anxiety. When David arrived, his expression was heavy, anticipation hanging in the air like a storm ready to break. "Claire feels sidelined," he began, the words clanging against my ears. "She believes you're trying to erase her from our family." A surge of disbelief coursed through me. "Erase her? Does she think that?" I couldn't hide the tremor in my voice. "I've worked so hard to include her." David sighed, his brows drawn together. "I love you, Mom, but I want you to understand her perspective. She's my wife, and we need to find a way through this." We discussed how to confront the tension directly. My resolve locked into place. If we didn't address this head-on, the cracks would deepen. Taking a steadying breath, I murmured my mantra silently. "They can mute me at the table, never in my heart." I needed to be honest, not just with Claire, but with myself. That evening, I invited Claire over for dinner. The air felt thick with unresolved emotions as I cooked. Each stir in the pot echoed my racing heart. When Claire arrived, I greeted her warmly, trying to soften the tension. "Thanks for making time, Claire," I began, hoping to ease us into a conversation that I feared could erupt. As we settled at the table, the weight of our recent history loomed. When Claire voiced her feelings of being an outsider, her words lashed out like barbs. "I don't want to feel unwelcome in my own family," she said, her eyes narrowing with frustration. I recognized the vulnerability buried beneath her defense. "I understand how that feels," I replied, my voice steadying. "I never meant to make you feel that way, and I want us to connect, not drift apart." With tension lingering, I shared memories of moments we had all enjoyed together, times that knitted our family closer. David joined in, reminiscing about shared laughter during family outings, urging Claire to reconnect with those memories rather than dwell on doubt. Gradually, I saw Claire's demeanor shift. Her icy resolve began to crack as she acknowledged her own insecurities. "Maybe I've let my fears take over," she admitted, her voice softening as the truth settled between us. What started as a tense standoff transformed into a candid exchange. Claire began to speak about the pressure she felt living up to expectations, and my heart opened to her struggle. I realized this was not about winning or losing, but rather about understanding and growth. As our vulnerability intertwined, the space around us shifted. The atmosphere buzzed with possibility. We shared laughter, tears, and a promise to rebuild our connection, our own unsteady ground becoming a foundation for healing. By the time dinner concluded, I felt an unmistakable bond forming, one draped in honesty and hope. The walls that had seemed insurmountable were now starting to crumble, giving way to a warm embrace of understanding. As we sat together, I sensed that this moment could lead to something beautiful, the rediscovery of not just a daughter-in-law, but a partner in a shared family journey. In the quiet that followed, I whispered my mantra one last time, a quiet declaration. "They can mute me at the table, never in my heart." I believed wholeheartedly that together we could forge a brighter path ahead. This conflict had become a catalyst for transformation, and in that realization, I felt empowered, ready to step fully into the love we could build as a family, side by side,